Juli Briglio is a nurse practitioner in an OB/GYN practice. She works with new moms, teens, and in general women's health. Juli has been in healthcare since 1987 and a nurse practitioner since 1999. Juli, welcome to Elevating Women's Wellness. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
So tell us about yourself and how you became interested in women's health and supporting mothers.
This job fell in my lap, honestly. It wasn't something that I planned at all. I finished school with a general family practice, if you will, as a nurse practitioner, but the only job available was in women's health. So there was a bit of a learning curve, just because I didn't really understand how grandiose women's health really was. It went from 12 until 100. So there was a lot of specialty things that I needed to learn. But and then of course the OB piece came with it, and looking after antepartum mothers and postpartum mothers and birth control in teens. And it was a wonderful opportunity that really wasn't something that I thought I would ever do, to be honest.
That's so interesting. So, and I could imagine, the diversity of different patient populations you might work with. Who are the typical patients that you're working with now?
Anywhere from honestly 14 up until some in their 90s, actually. So it's quite diverse, and I see them for many different things. A lot of my practice is obstetrical, just because that's where the need is at the present time.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So if we're thinking about, women becoming mothers for the first time, what are the common obstacles that they might encounter at that stage?
This is a huge question. I think there's a transition role piece that people think will be almost instantaneous. And it's really not. It takes a good year to 2 years to fall into the motherhood role. Because as you're trying to navigate motherhood, you're also trying to keep part of your old life. And it's difficult to try to manage all of that and still be who you are. And so it has a lot of a emotional piece. There's a psychological piece. There's the physical changes are what they are, and people see those things, but people don't see that emotional, psychological piece. Oftentimes, as you're trying to navigate, your friends are at different stages of their life. So some don't have children, some are on their first, second, third. And so trying to just connect with them, it creates sometimes a bit of loneliness. And even though you're surrounded by a lot of family, that loneliness piece exists because there's no self-expression, if you will. So I find that the emotional impact of pregnancy being fatigue, and then you don't cope well because you're so tired. And then you think, oh, I need help, but you don't ask for help. And I think that's one of the biggest things people do wrong in pregnancy, if you will, is they don't ask for help. They feel that asking for help is failing at motherhood. And I'm like, oh dear, one of my biggest talks is please ask. Other obstacles I find are social media platforms. This is a huge setup in my mind for unattainable expectations. And it puts so much pressure on the new mom to look like that mom on Instagram or that mom on Facebook. And it's just, I wish that they would just stay off it in my mind. Just don't even go on there the first year, because that's not the way things are, right? There's also this urban family mentality where, the mother is expected to be the only one that can look after the baby, and that it's 24 hours a day and 7 days a week, and nobody can help you except for the experts. And I think, oh my gosh, that's such an unattainable goal for any new mom. Like, no, that's not the truth at all. I think it just puts mothers under scrutiny, dysregulation, just because if they sway from that and they take care of themselves and engage in self-care behaviors, they feel that, oh, maybe I'm not the best mom. And the exact opposite in my mind is what I believe. You have to take care of yourself. If you don't take care of yourself first, you're going to have nothing left to take care of the rest of the family.
Yeah, absolutely. I think those are such wise words. And I'm so glad that you've pulled out these different obstacles and made them clear and to show that there's also solutions. I wanted to zero in on something that you mentioned about asking for help, because I know how difficult this can often be for women, for pregnant women, for mothers. What does that look like in say in pregnancy? Like what kind of things could women potentially ask for help? Like what are some examples? Because I know that may help our audience.
So I think you have to start off with the partner. That's the first piece. Everybody is somewhat connected to somebody, right? So what does that partner look like? Are they the one that cuts the grass and puts out the garbage and doesn't engage in housework? Are they the one that does engage in housework and do the cleaning and the cooking? Which pieces can you pull from that partner to help you during pregnancy? So first of all, you have to know your partner and their skill set. And if they have no skill set in the kitchen or in the home, this is where division of duty has to happen. It has to happen in pregnancy, because when the baby comes, you can't do it all. You just cannot do it all. And so I always say that conversation has to start from the onset. And I always tell women, make it about you. I am tired. I'm unable to keep up with the laundry. I can't cook dinner tonight. I'm unable to clean the house today. Can you help me? Are you able to? And voice your need. If you don't voice your need, you're setting men up, in my opinion. They are clueless. And I believe that. They come home, they eat, they sit on the couch, whatever they do, they go to their man cave. It's not that they don't want to help. They just don't know to help. Men will walk over dirty laundry before they see it. They will trip on the stuff. They jump into an unmade bed and think nothing of it. For us, we come from a different place. We like our home neat and clean, but when we're not feeling up to it and it's just not the way we like it, that creates so much anxiety for us and stress for us, but yet we don't ask anybody to help us. So then if the partner's not willing and you can't engage them, then you go to the extended family, moms and dads and sisters, and you just ask this, and be honest, this is what I need. And you're not being a bad mom by asking.
Right. And I think you hit the nail on the head with that, like how important the communication piece is, and that others around us, even though they know us well, aren't able to read minds. So if you can express what your needs are and ask for what you want, then there's a higher likelihood that's going to get achieved, right?
Oh yeah, you have to give people permission to be in your home. So even myself as a grandma, I said to my daughter, "Is it okay that I'm in your kitchen? Do you want me here? Is it all right that I'm folding your laundry? Are you comfortable with that?" So give people permission to do those things as well. So because as a mother-in-law, you may see the laundry in the laundry basket and you may want to fold that laundry, but unless you're given permission, your comfort level may not be just to pick up that laundry and fold it. Versus if you knew that you had permission, can you help me? I need help with my laundry today. It's easy, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, so true. We could really, I think, everyone, and this is always something that I strive for too, is just to become a better communicator, become more self-aware, and then to be able to ask questions, or again, just to reach out for that help. I think it's so important. Thank you for emphasizing that. I'm wondering about what questions mothers can ask themselves to self-assess their health, to really check in through the motherhood journey and see where they're at and what they might need.
This is something that we all kind of need to do. And I think that the question is simple. There's one question. Do I feel resentful?
Mm,
Resentful is a sign of you not taking care of yourself, self-neglect. So if you feel that, it's because you have not engaged in your own self-happiness, if you will. And I always say, you need to reclaim yourself. So yes, you're happy as a new mom. And yes, you're happy because you're caring for your brand new baby. And yes, everything's happy because you have what you want. You live in this beautiful home, or a modest home, and you have a wonderful partner and you have a great extended family, but there's some piece of you that just isn't right. Well, that is because you have not reclaimed yourself. Where is yourself in motherhood? What do you like to do? Are you doing those things? Or are you so ingrained in the family life, the partner life? There has to be a piece. I always tell women, don't forget about you. If you forget about you, you are going to run out of steam to take care of everybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. It comes back to the identity and the self, and what you mentioned, that 1 to 2 year transition period into motherhood, and really being able to navigate that and pull all the pieces of your former life into this new life. And along with that, your identity, and not forgetting yourself.
Oh yeah, that is the biggest piece. I always say to women, well, what do you do for yourself? Name me one thing you do in a day that's for you. Okay, let's say a week. Oh, forget that. Let's say a month. They sometimes cannot come up with anything. And it's really sad. I think, wow, like that's not okay. Remember what you did as a little kid and then bring it into adulthood. If it's like reading or coloring or playing sports or working out or swimming, or do it as an adult. It brings joy. All those things bring joy to you because you liked it as a kid. You're going to still like it as an adult.
It's
Might
so
not be able to do it as well, but
it's so true. We don't have to be good at something to enjoy it. And I think that, it's a question that I ask often in my practice too. If people are struggling with having a self-care practice or hobbies, or like that time to themselves that are carved out in their schedule. I love the going back to childhood piece, because it was so natural to play then. But we really have to think about that as adults.
oh yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
So, what myths about motherhood are important for us to clear up today? I know you've shared about some. Are there any others that we should really be breaking down and clearing up?
Oh yeah. Let's just talk about motherhood generally. It's natural, it's simple. Oh my God, no. Motherhood is hard. It's a learned skill. It's a skill that's passed on through generations. And I would say that the Indigenous population really did this the best. And then with the residential school piece, it got fractioned. And unfortunately, things fell apart. And it's very sad when you think about how that whole generational passing of stories, learning how to be a mother, transitioning to parenthood, the village raising the family, that is so, so important, because it just emphasizes that motherhood is learned. It is not something that comes naturally at all. 100%. The other piece is breastfeeding is easy.
Mm.
Breastfeeding is not easy. Breastfeeding is a commitment and it's challenging. And it does take some time. So babies know what they need, but they may not necessarily know how to feed. And so we have to teach them. And we, in the same process, must also learn, because it's not something that we know. We've never done it before. So I always say you have to give yourself at least 2 weeks. If you don't give yourself 2 weeks, you're going to throw in the towel. So the expectation for sure is give yourself time to learn this new skill. It's not something that's going to happen in 24 hours when you leave the hospital. And then again, surround yourself by people that are there, that are going to support you and help you.
Yeah, I really love your framing of both motherhood and breastfeeding as skills, because skills are something that normally when you start out, you're maybe not so good at it. And that's okay, because it's something that you can actually learn, build on, grow, and improve on over time, right?
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah,
And we
really.
are constantly growing. I'm a grandmother and I'm still learning about motherhood. as you mother your children who are now, well into their late 20s and 30s. You're still a mother. It's not something that just stops, it continues. And it's hard because when you mother as an infant, then you mother as a toddler, then you mother as a school age, then you mother as a teen, then you mother as a young adult. All that is learning. It's not something that you know instinctively. You have to learn.
Yeah, definitely. And on that note, what are practical tips for women as their mothering role changes throughout their lifespan? I'm so curious to hear from you with your mothering experience and also your clinical experience in your practice.
You have to forgive yourself. You're going to make mistakes. They're 100%. And you just have to trust that whatever you did at the time was the best thing at the time. You can always look back, 24 hours or, hindsight, they always say is 2020 and say, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. It's okay. It is okay. And I remember one time taking my daughter's cell phone and putting it on top of the fridge because she was just on it too much. So she's well into her 30s now. And while you thought I did something terrible, like the worst thing ever, 24 hours later, I thought, who is being more punished here, me or her? Because all I could hear was her complaining, of course, about all of that, right? And oh, it was just, I'm sorry. So always think, okay, make sure the punishment fits the crime. So I later learned, I would say to them, well, what should we do about this? What do you think? Well, their punishment was way worse than mine would have ever been. And then I usually cut it in a quarter of what they would say. I think, I think I need to be grounded for a week. And I'd be, okay. And then 24 hours later, I'd say, okay, I think that's good enough now. But yeah, it's challenging motherhood. It really is. The other thing I was thinking of possibly is you don't have to always listen to advice. Just because somebody said doesn't mean that it's right. It may not fit your family. It may not fit your values. It may not fit into your customs. It just may not be the right thing for you. Read. Oh my gosh, reading is wonderful as you navigate motherhood. Um, I always I always liked 1, 2, 3 Magic when the kids were tiny, tiny little people. And then later, I can't think of it'll come to me later, but there was another really good parenting book. Parenting books are awesome to read just because no one ever gave us any sort of information about parenting when you started motherhood. Nobody taught us how to parent. We parented the way we were parented. And then we look at that and we think, oh, maybe I don't want to do it that way. So there is really some good resources out there to read about parenting. And you have to both be on the same page.
Yes.
And when you come from different backgrounds, you think that you're the same. You think that, what your value system is matching your partner's. It sometimes really is not. And then the big fight becomes, well, what do we do about this? Well, the two minds don't meet. So make sure that you have a unified front with parenting. And there was never, I'm going to talk to my dad because my mom's going to say no, or vice versa. It's always important that you're both on the same page. And if you both disagree, it's okay to tell the children, you know what, mom and dad and I aren't looking at this the same way. We need a couple minutes to figure out what we're going to do with this. So you don't always have to have the answers either. One really important thing my mom told me was it's okay to say no. And I thought, oh my gosh, she's so right. At this stage, this society that we have, everything is at our fingertips. We can really have everything and anything we want. We are not going to teach our children anything if we don't learn to say no. And screen time, no screen time for little people, not until the age of 4. Some sources say 3, but I say 4. Get them outside, let them see things, learn things, read things, talk to them, sing to them. You be the voice. Don't let the radio be the voice, let it be yours. Um, and get your sleep. Oh, motherhood, you need sleep. That's the big one for me. I always say when babies are little, sleep when the baby sleeps. And that's no myth. I believe that. And when everybody's up and awake and you're thinking, oh my God, it's Sunday afternoon and everybody's outside and it's 25 degrees, but I was up all night. Yeah, that's right. You were up all night. Go to sleep. It's okay. You're not going to miss out on anything except your sleep. And then your coping's going to be poor, right? So I would say sleep when baby sleeps. Take care of yourself that way and eat well and hydrate, all those things.
Yeah, those foundations really matter. And I love those practical tips that you shared. I think that women are really going to benefit from hearing from you on, from your experience too. That really matters. And like you said, you can take what you want from things you're either reading or even advice that you're given. You don't necessarily have to follow all of it to a T, but if you're checking in what resonates for you, what works for your family, and what is consistent with your values, then you can get, you can get value from that.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Yeah. So I'm curious to hear from you too, about why is believing in oneself so important to women and mothers?
Oh, yeah. You become, I think it sets a foundation for resilience. I think it really does. When you believe in yourself, you can accomplish anything in my mind. I mean, resilience is overcoming hardship, right? And life is not a straight line. There's hills and valleys and peaks, and ditches, and there's some really deep ditches. And if you believe in yourself, if you chunk out problems, if you gain perspective, we can do anything as women. I think we are the stronger sex. I'm sorry, but we really are. We can raise children all by ourselves. We don't need partners. And not to say that men can't either. We just seem to be doing it a lot more these days. It's believing in oneself. Is a piece that women are missing. I think, we have kids, especially when I look at my teen pregnancies, they think, okay, this is it. I'm done. I had a baby. I'm 16. This is what I'm going to do. I say, no, no, no. Believe in yourself. Set the goal. Go for the goal. You put your mind to it. You can do this. People around you may say, oh, you had a baby at 16. So it's path B. So it's not path A. So you didn't do it the way everybody else did it. You did it this way. That doesn't mean that you can't do and be all the things you want to be. You just have to truly believe in you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's great messaging for, young moms to hear as well, because it does come back to, well, what do you believe for yourself? Because oftentimes there's a lot of societal expectations around motherhood and these things that seem socially dictated to women, but you don't necessarily have to internalize those. You can choose what is true for you.
Oh, 100%. The teen population is one of my favorites, to be honest. And it's because they're still children. They still are sponges. They still have so much of their cup to fill. And I always think, and I've said this forever, if I can just say one thing, if I can just do one thing that's going to change the way someone thinks or feels about themselves in a negative way, then I've done my job that day. And I really wake up every morning and say that to myself, because I believe that it only takes one person to just say the right thing at the right time for someone to change their path.
Yeah, so true. I have a final question for you, Julie. And you mentioned a little bit about resilience, but resilience is a huge topic. And I think it's one that is incredibly important to women's wellness. It's a topic that I love to talk about and ask about and hear from others on. So what does becoming more resilient mean to you? And how does it relate to the women that you work with in your practice?
So I said before, resilience is like overcoming hardship. And I think it's recognizing that when things get difficult, you don't give up, you just dig a little deeper. And we all have it within ourselves to do that. Resilience also means that there's a change taking place and
Mhm.
that we have to embrace that change, whatever it is. And we write our story. Nobody writes our story. We make our choices. You know, the consequences fall on us. If we want to change the direction of our story, then we have to change our behavior. And it's, to me, that's meaningful action, which we all can do. And we all know what we need to do to make things better. But sometimes when things are so big, you can't see it. So I always say, chunk it all out, break it all down, write it down, write what you'd like to accomplish that day, and just do piece by piece. Because if you look sometimes at a big picture, resilience is like, they can't even talk about resilience. They don't even know, oh my gosh, it's hard to get out of bed, right? Sometimes that's our starting point. But to build resilience, you brickwork it. It's like, I got up today, if that's where you're at. I made my lunch today. I ate today. I looked after myself today. Nurturing the positive pieces of us are so, so important in building resilience.
Yeah, I love that analogy, breaking it, and the fact that you pointed out that it signifies change. If we're like digging deeper for our resilience, there is change and it can be embraced. And with practical strategies of breaking it down, keeping it really simple, acknowledging the good things that you're doing, even if they feel small, you can just build on it from there.
Oh yeah, 100%. Unfortunately, what I've noticed in the last, I would say, 5 or so years is a huge surge in postpartum depression, a
Mm.
huge surge, which is so, so sad because this is supposed to be a wonderful new beginning. New is usually positive. Um, and unfortunately, for some, it is just not. And I find that the biggest part of that is the lack of support.
Mm.
And again, I always take it back to ask for help. Because a
Yeah.
lot of times your family doesn't even know that you're suffering because you hide it. And they are there for you. I'm telling you, your community is there for you, your family is there for you, your friends are there for you. But if you don't speak up, nobody knows. It is honestly the silent disease in my mind.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so glad that you mentioned that. I think that's a final message that's so important and really ties together everything that we discussed today, and the main points about communication, how important that is, asking for help, and that, any kind of challenges like that, they don't have to define you. You can overcome them.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Julie. It's been a pleasure to speak with you. And I know that the audience is really going to benefit from your message.
Oh, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed our conversation. Thank
Thank
you.
you.